In today's video, we're going to install the GRmoto double barrel exhaust on my BMW R1250GSA. If you've seen a couple of my previous videos, you know that I have this GRmoto exhaust that I installed on my 2022 BMW R1250GSA. But you probably have also seen that they now have a double barrel exhaust that they are offering for this motorcycle. I reached out and asked if it'd be possible for me to get one of these exhausts to put on my bike and be able to give my thoughts on it, as well as be able to do a bit of a comparison between the new exhaust versus the previous generation exhaust. So let's go ahead, unbox the new exhaust, and then we'll throw it on. Inside the box looks very similar to the original GRmoto exhaust. You've got some general swag, an exhaust clamp. You also have the adapter pipe that goes from the original exhaust to the GRmoto muffler sealant. Not too much is different here. So now I'm going to open up the muffler box. Here you can see the new GRmoto double barrel muffler. And you can see why they call it a double barrel, because you've got your twin exhaust outlets. This exhaust has baffles in it similar to the original exhaust, and you can see that over here you've got these covers which will then let you get to these set screws to release them. So we'll do some sound tests both with and without the baffles installed. Initial impressions are that this is a nice looking exhaust, and it does feel a little bit heavier than the original one, but we'll go do a weight check here in a bit, and I will tell you what I find. In the muffler box, you also have the required clamps to attach it. You've got this larger clamp that will go around the main exhaust body, and then you've also got the clamp that will hold the back of the muffler onto the adapter pipe. Let's get the old muffler off, and then we'll start looking at installing this one. That didn't take long to get off. Something that you may not be able to see very well, but if you look at these two exhausts, the new one is actually slightly larger diameter inlet than the old one. And that becomes more evident if I slip this on the old pipe. It's got some extra looseness to it, but if you take a look at the new pipe, that fits on there snugly. And the shape of this is actually a little bit more contoured than the old one. So I'm going to pull the adapter pipe off, and then I'm going to go weigh these mufflers to see what the difference is. My initial impressions were correct. The new exhaust is a little bit heavier. It weighs in at 4.6 pounds compared to the old muffler at 3 pounds. But for comparison, the original weighed 11.8 pounds. So no matter how you look at it, there is a pretty significant weight reduction. I didn't weigh the clamps or anything, any of the accessories between the two. Those are going to be pretty equivalent. I think in the original exhaust video, I found that the GRmoto saved right at around 7 pounds. So now I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and then we'll put on the new exhaust. Getting the rubber cushioning on the clamp, it is a little bit oversized, so I think I'm going to have to cut that down. And yep, I'll have to cut that down, no problem. You can see that the new exhaust comes with a different style attachment bracket versus the old exhaust. I'm not sure if I like the new one better or not. I did like how the original one had a more full backing that went under the original hardware better, but this does technically weigh less. Alright, I think that is probably about right, so now I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down. Well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I really do like how this new exhaust looks. I think that it's a more aggressive appearance versus the original exhaust. It does weigh in a little bit more than the previous one, but at the end of the day, you're going to get a significant weight savings versus stock with either of these GRmoto options. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of sound bites for you, both with and without the baffles installed, and then I'm going to go ride it around for about a week and see what I think of it both ways, and I'll finish up this video. Before I do the sound clips, let me just show you how you remove the baffles. you've got these little plugs here, which are the same as on the original exhaust. And then inside, you have a couple of small Allen head screws. So once you get those plugs off, you just have to put an Allen in there and then loosen them up, and you can remove the screws and pull them out. I could see this being harder to remove and then reinstall when compared to the original exhaust, which had a single Allen head screw on the bottom, but ultimately not too big of a deal, and you'll probably decide that you like it one way or the other and keep it that way. So let's make some noise. It's a few months later. Let me explain what happened. After I got the double barrel exhaust fitted on my BMW, I went to go do a startup and go to record some sound bites with both the baffles in and out. And when I was doing that, what I ended up noticing was that the outlet of the exhaust was not only pointed at, but directly hitting the license plate frame and my right rear turn signal. You don't want that, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to melt both of those. The exhaust is close enough and hot enough that that's going to become a problem for you. I contacted GRmoto, explained the problem. I took some pictures, I sent some videos, and we had some back and forth on what the best way to resolve the issue was. They started off by sending me this bracket here as well as a spacer, which I put on, and that did successfully move the exhaust to a orientation and location where it was no longer hitting the turn signal and the license plate frame. However, then an issue became that if I put my luggage rack back on, it was hitting the luggage rack. I personally don't run with the factory luggage racks, so for me that wasn't going to be a problem, but for the purposes of the video, I wanted to make sure that it would fit with the factory luggage racks, since I know a lot of people do run with those. After that, I had a little bit more back and forth with GRmoto. We tried a couple of different things, and this is what we ultimately found was going to work. This does allow me to have the luggage rack installed, and it does not hit it, but again, I don't have it on since that's not how I run my motorcycle. What we've got here is we've got the adapter pipe that comes from the original GRmoto exhaust that I had. If you recall from earlier in the video, I'd noted how this did not fit quite as snugly inside the double barrel muffler as the pipe that came with it, but really it's just fine, especially with the clamp. It's holding sufficiently, there's no leaks. And then this bracket had a spacer, which I did not leave installed, and this gets to be a good orientation all around. So now let me give you some sound clips both with and without the baffles installed. At this point, I've got several hundred miles riding the motorcycle with this exhaust, both with and without the baffles installed. I've done highway rides, I've done local rides, done off-road rides, so I've gotten a decent amount of time with it in both configurations and different sorts of settings. I have to say that I'm ultimately really happy with this exhaust. My preference is definitely to ride it around without the baffles installed. It has a nice deep sound to it, it's not too loud at all. Even on the highway for riding 100 miles or so, I didn't find it to be objectionable at all. I do ride with earplugs, but I found it to be an appropriate volume. I did have notes with the original GRmoto exhaust that it could be a little bit too loud without the baffle. And this one is quieter decibel-wise, and it's also a really nice sound. So I'm very happy with it from that perspective. With the baffles in, the exhaust really is very quiet, especially at a cold start and idle. I find it to kind of sound a little bit wimpy, and I'm not a big fan of that. But if you have the baffles in, it's because you're looking for a quieter sound in general. My opinion is that if I'm going to be going on a long trip, I might put those in just to get a little bit less exhaust noise if I'm going to be riding 6-10 hours in a day. But for the majority of the riding that I do, I'm just going to leave the baffles out. With the old exhaust, if I had the baffle out on a highway trip, even if it was a shorter one, it would get loud enough to be tiresome, but I don't find that to be the case with this one. Other than the initial fitment issues that I had, there's really nothing bad I can say about this. If you compare this to the original GRmoto exhaust, really I think the main reason to go with the other one would be if you were really trying to get every ounce out of your motorcycle that you could, because this is about 1.5 pounds heavier. However, you still are going to have a very significant weight reduction versus the factory BMW exhaust. So I think that if you're looking to do a weight reduction and you're picking one or the other, this is what I would say is going to be the preferable one, just because of its better looks, better sound, and just overall, I think it better complements the bike. From my communications with GRmoto, it wasn't entirely clear to me whether or not they were going to make any changes to the kits that they sent to prevent this issue from happening for others. I also don't know if there's something special about how my bike is set up that's why I had an issue in the first place. However, GRmoto was very good to work with on resolving the issue, and to me that's probably the most important part. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting. Please leave any questions down below in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.